I know it is difficult finding an anime MMO in today's market. Anime titles are shutting down one by one, and the games that are left are, I don't know, vacant would be a bit of a compliment. Now, at the beginning of this year, I did do a video on the Anime MMORPGs that we can look forward to over the course of 2020 and going into 2021. Games like Blue Protocol, Gran Saga, and the recently announced Tower of Fantasy. Yet I am nevertheless plagued by a plethora of people asking me, hey Styx, what is a good anime MMO to play? Anime titles specifically here. And then I realized to myself that I haven't done a video this year depicting the top anime MMOs to play currently. You know, games that are readily available right now. That was my mistake. I apologize. So with all of this in mind, I feel it is my obligation to satiate that hunger that you guys no doubt have to find and play an anime title that you would be otherwise unable to. A title that you can play, that you can waste some time in while waiting for any of those aforementioned games. Yes, we are all waiting on you, Blue Protocol. Although before we go any further, let's just take a moment and talk about today's sponsor, the brand new Bleach Immortal Soul mobile RPG. Yeah, that Bleach. The game officially launched on March 26, 2020 to quite a bit of fandom. This is an official Bleach title licensed and authorized by the Bleach Animation Production Committee that allows you to play through the original Bleach story at your own pace. No joke. And the best part, it actually features the legendary voice actors that helped bring the anime to life. Immortal Soul allows you to jump right back into the world of Bleach full with your favorite characters, their Shikai and Bankai releases, all of the classic stories that help secure a place in your memory, and strategic combat that requires you plan out your attacks in advance. That is right, team composition, order of attack. You'll have access to a ton of different characters with which to customize your team to make one of the most fearsome squads in the Soul Society. And you can level them up to go even further beyond their limits to take them into battle. And there are several different game modes that you can take them into. The story mode, which is what you should really be playing if you're a fan of the game. PvP modes, if you want to test your mettle against other squads. The battle arena, roguelike, and more. Bleach Immortal Soul is available right now on both iOS and Android devices completely free. Go ahead and download the game using my link in the description and the pinned comment to begin your journey through one of my favorite anime of all time today. You can also redeem the code in the description below to gain access to a ton of sweet goodies. It would be asinine to begin this list without first talking about the biggest anime release of 2020, right? Of course! Phantasy Star Online 2 released back in 2012 in Japan, and just this year in North America. Yeah, it really took 8 years to localize the game in the West, and while there have definitely been issues surrounding its launch, players have praised it for not disappointing. PSO2 utilizes a hub-based gameplay system with all players residing within a large space station, taking quests from a variety of different NPCs scattered about, and departing on instanced missions together with other players or by oneself. The game makes use of an action combat system, providing players, depending on your class, the ability to equip several different weapon types, providing access to a different selection of skills per weapon, drastically changing how you play the game. Phantasy Star Online 2 is probably the most anime-ish MMO that I have ever played. Blatant Soul released back in 2012 in South Korea and 2016 within North America and Europe. It launched to pretty critical success over the course of its first year, with players far and wide jumping in to test what was arguably one of the best free MMOs playable back in 2016. Blatant Soul is a large, open game that features segregated zones, meaning that unlike an MMO like World of Warcraft or Black Desert Online, zones are actually divided by loading screens but are in no way instanced. You can freely roam, you can converse with, party up with, and engage other players in combat. The zones themselves are just separated by a small loading screen. While some people might argue that Black Desert has the best action combat in the genre, other people might argue that Blatant Soul does. Although over time, I believe they've changed the combat and skill systems so drastically that I don't even really recognize it. No list is complete without having Mabinogi in it. Mabinogi is an old yet oddly unique anime MMO that should never be overlooked when discussing the best or most original anime titles. The game was released back in 2004 in Korea and later released in North America in 2008. This game has retained a sense of relevance for over a decade in the West and was supposed to be followed up by Period Chronicles, but you know what, considering that the latter was actually cancelled, Mabinogi is still pretty much the only game of its kind. While it utilizes a very slow, very dated combat system, sure, its unique graphical style, its combat, its rebirth system, its aging mechanic and the freedom to play in almost any way imaginable makes it a game that you always find yourself coming back to. Yes, it is definitely nowhere near as popular as it once was, falling almost into obscurity with only a few hundred active players online at any given moment, but trust me when I tell you that you will not find a game like this anywhere. Soworker Online is a personal favorite of mine. I was actually one of the people that played the game in its original Japanese incarnation, garnering millions of views and helping expand the Western player base pretty significantly. You know, not to gloat or anything. And while the game had originally launched in Japan in 2015, it didn't release in North America and Europe until 2018. Yeah, the game has actually only been available over here in the West for 2 years now. Much like PSO2, Soworker is a hub-based MMO. However, unlike most hub-based MMOs like Critica or Vindictus or PS2 and the like, Soworker is one of the few games that actually have a much larger selection of hubs that you can move between. This helps quite tremendously, as there is nothing more boring than being stuck in the same town for like the entire game. While Soworker is an absolutely beautiful game, probably one of the best looking anime MMOs currently available, it also has some of the best action combat, which is something that I've noted repeatedly whenever I've spoken of the game. Tree of Savior is the spiritual successor to Ragnarok Online. If you haven't played that, then you've missed out. The game was released back in 2015 in Korea and then 2016 in the West. This is the only isometric MMO in this list, as I'm not traditionally a fan of the game type. However, if you haven't tried Tree of Savior, at least after the plethora of updates it's had over the last year or two, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Tree of Savior is one of the most adorable anime MMOs that I have ever had the pleasure of playing. Not only is the graphical style both cute and gorgeous at the same time, with the amazing backgrounds and various different vistas, it also has incredibly rewarding dynamic gameplay. Like pretty much every isometric MMO, the game does utilize segregated zones, but with how large the game is, you really won't end up feeling it. Okay, I know some of you might disagree with this, but I had to include it here because when I don't, people start complaining, Styx, why didn't you include Final Fantasy XIV in your top 10 or top 15 or top 5 anime MMO list? You know it's an anime MMO, right? And I'm like, I guess I can kind of see that, sure. But regardless, I know a lot of you do, so here you go. Final Fantasy XIV, to me, is still probably the best MMORPG on the market right now. Much like most MMOs in this day and age, the game also utilizes segregated zones, which continue to grow in both scale and complexity as the expansions continue to release. It also employs a tab target combat system that people complain is heinously slow early on, but I'll be the first to admit here that it does get much more enjoyable later on in the game's life. It's also an astonishingly beautiful title with more main title Final Fantasy crossovers than you could ever know what to do with. Dungeon Fighter Online released originally back in 2005 in South Korea, with the game launching globally in 2009, shutting down due to Nexon's poor management, and then re-emerging again in 2015. Dungeon Fighter Online is one of my favorite hub-based MMOs, as it has the kind of quality that most others just don't. It has a plethora of different characters you can choose, with each character having access to several classes, providing a lot of customization and advancement opportunities that just aren't present in its competition. Unlike hub-based games like PSO2 or Soworker though, Dungeon Fighter Online utilizes horizontal movement, much like older arcade games, and has incredibly fast, very flashy, fluid combat animations. Considering with its Chinese, Korean, and Japanese player base, it has more active players than any other MMO in the entire world. So yeah, it is definitely worth trying out at the very least. If you've been watching this channel for a while now, then you will know that I don't really share any form of positive connection with Aura Kingdom. This isn't because the game is a bad game in any capacity, far from it. This is because Area Games just handled it really poorly, and that left a really bad first impression and second impression and third impression every time I tried going back to the game. Aura Kingdom released originally back in 2014 and remained with Area Games until Gamigo took over. It is worth noting that I have not tried the game out since Scabigo took over, so they may have changed how the game operates, how the game is handled, I don't know. Now, Aura Kingdom might be one of, if not the most updated, advanced, traditional anime MMORPG you will find if you're looking for something that brings back memories of old. It features segregated zones, basic class archetypes, simple anime graphics, which honestly look pretty damn good, don't get me wrong, tab target combat, and, well, Aura Kingdom never did anything innovative with the genre, so it quickly faded into memory. However, it has remained one of the better quality traditional anime MMOs still alive. Much like Aura Kingdom, Flyff is a large, actually much larger anime MMO than almost any other title around currently. The game was released originally back in 2003 in Korea, and then 2005 in North America, and has retained an active player base of dedicated players for almost 15 years straight. If that isn't impressive, then I don't know what is. Flyff is one of the few anime MMOs that actually employ a flight system in-game, something that at the time took me by surprise. So much so that I probably stopped playing for moments after obtaining my first broom, purely because I never experienced anything like that up until that point. While it, like most MMOs, utilizes segregated zones, the game world itself is so large, much larger than your ordinary MMO, that you often forget. The combat is tab target, naturally. You didn't get many, if any, non-tab target MMOs in this day and age, but honestly, it is not half bad. At its worst, it's a little bit slow. MapleStory is one of a kind, or almost one of a kind. Wait, no, after Grand Chase closed down, it is definitely one of a kind again, right? Right. Anyway, MapleStory is one of the older titles in this list, launching in South Korea in 2003 and then North America in 2005. It retained millions of players for almost a decade, with it slowly beginning to decline in the mid-2010s. However, to date, MapleStory has remained one of the most populated, most actively updated anime MMOs on the market, and it stands to reason as to why. The game is packed with hilarious story, likable characters, fast, incredibly flashy combat with skills that often take up the entire screen, and an interesting world to traverse. Unlike most MMOs, MapleStory utilizes an interesting map with portals leading to different parts of the world, often numbered in parts, each with their own unique aesthetic and selection of monsters. With its ridiculous number of classes, its high level cap, and insane amount of things you can do, you likely won't find yourself getting bored anytime soon. Eden the Turtle is one of the first anime games that I ever played. The game was released back in 2010 in China and then globally in 2011. I recall at the time being absolutely baffled with its class system, as it provided the option to level every single class on a single character. Not only that, but by leveling specific classes, you gained access to new, more powerful classes, meaning that you were required to not only grind monsters, but do enough dailies and dungeons to continue farming XP for each and every class that you wanted. This kept the world feeling alive, with people of all levels and skill levels working together to actually level up. And with its fast tab target combat system that made heavy use of AoEs, the combat often felt much faster and much more engaging than other tab target MMOs released around the same time. Graphically, Eden Eternal still looks incredible to me, especially the abilities. It's honestly a shame that it isn't more popular. Again, it also uses segregated zones and features an auto-pathing system, which, especially for dailies and repeatables, is actually kind of useful. And this is the only time you are ever going to hear me say that auto-pathing is a useful feature, a useful mechanic in an MMO. That is how much I hate doing daily quests. Yeah, World of Warcraft ruined that for me. Thanks, WoW. This is a last hub-based MMO, I swear. Closers is one of the better looking, more updated horizontal hub-based MMOs on the market right now, releasing in Korea in 2014 and then in North America in 2017. This, like Soworker, was actually one of the games that I helped build hype for, playing the game, I think originally in Thai, or Korean? I don't know, I forget. It was a year before ever releasing within North America. Much like Dungeon Fighter Online, you move horizontally across the instanced maps, fighting hordes of monsters with incredibly animated attacks and abilities and some of the best action combat in the anime genre. And have you seen the characters in this game? Wow. If they aren't enough reason to play Closers, then I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. Tentime is actually an anime MMORPG that launched earlier this year. Yeah, not only was it developed, but it was also released in 2020. Unlike other games that were developed years ago and just published in the West this year. Tentime is also one of the most unique MMOs that I have ever played. It's like Pokemon. You begin with your very own Tentime, you train it, you level it, you evolve it, you can capture other Tentime, fight through dojos, dojo leaders, explore a giant open world, and just, you know, do what you would do in a Pokemon game. Thankfully, this game is pretty open world. Each island takes tens of hours to fully explore and are accessible without any loading screens whatsoever. However, to access different islands requires you flying via airship, which acts as a loading screen, but the world itself is tremendously large. Much like Pokemon, Tentime utilizes a turn-based combat system, something that I've actually ever only seen in Atlantica Online. So yeah, seeing that Tentime is a unique anime MMO is the understatement of the year. And there we have it, 13 anime MMORPGs that I totally think you should try out if you haven't already, or heck, if you're just looking for an anime MMO to play. You will not likely find another anime MMO that is remotely as good as the 13 that are listed here. So I don't know, if these don't satiate that thirst you have for an anime title, then you're likely better off waiting for Blue Protocol or Project BBQ or Gran Saga, Tower of Fantasy, or heck, even Genshin Impact, which is gonna come out in just a few months. But that's just my opinion, my impressions of the genre right now. What do you guys think though? Let me know down in the comments below and let's talk about it. Anyway guys, that is it for me. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you all next time.
Someday soon I'm gonna make it. Yeah, all hard work's gonna be worth it.